Simon Sinek, in his best-selling book, taught us to start with why. And that's true. Without thinking deeper about the reason behind your journey, you won't know if it's worth sticking with through difficult times. Truly knowing why I chose to be an artist has helped me go forward, even when I thought the sky is falling down on me. So, if you're stuck or simply curious, join me in this self-discovery process. And who knows, maybe you'll get some inspiration to find your own answers to the similar questions. We'll begin with the first question I ask myself. Why am I an artist? There are people who destroy things in the world. There are others who create. And I always wanted to be in the latter group. Thinking back on it, I remember myself doing this since forever. And I still didn't get bored. Never. Every time I take a long break from painting, I really miss it. And I get so excited when I visualize myself working again. I guess that's just who I really am. Why do I paint? Painting is my way of communication, my medium of conveying messages and stories, just like the written or verbal word. It can mold the way you see the world around you, potentially even the way you see yourself. With every painting, I try to stir emotions in people. It doesn't matter if those are negative or positive, as long as it isn't indifference, because that means I failed. The world is moving fast, and we pretty much never have the time to sit down and look within and hear what that inner voice is telling us, or maybe even turning it into our champion. So when you visit any of my exhibitions in the future, hopefully, I want you to take a break from the outside world.
She's forgotten what it's like to live on the outside, to not be in prison.
Coming to bed, honey?
Yes, dear.
To search within and make space for all those normally ignored thoughts that will undoubtedly rush through your mind. Everybody's unique set of circumstances act as a context of their interpretation of the painting, passing down new meanings and stories through generations that show how our worldview changed over the years. That's fascinating. In art, nothing is set in stone. That's why I paint. How do I know when a painting is finished? Well, it's finished when the flash of inspiration is gone. To me, inspiration is that limited moment in time when I just feel different. The painting, drawing, sketch is the reflection of my experience through that flash of inspiration. And when it's gone for good. It isn't coming back. So there is no need to continue with that painting. It achieved its purpose of becoming the material representation of the experience I felt. Making changes afterwards would be disingenuous to the original experience. How do I start a painting? This process doesn't start with me staring at a blank canvas with brush in my hand the morning I come to the studio. It starts months or years in advance from a random thought that crosses my mind and stands out from the rest of my chaotic thoughts. I take notes about each and every one that I feel has the potential of turning into a painting. Weeks, months, or even years can pass by until one of them matures and is ready to materialize into a piece of art. I've had my art journal since school, and I write down all my creative ideas in it. Well, almost all, since some of them were lost in battle on my way of understanding the importance of taking notes. Sometimes I sift through it in search of a concept that is ready to manifest into a painting. Once I find it, I follow these steps. Generate a list of descriptive words and phrases that associate with the concept. Transform them into visual objects on the canvas with color. Establish the overall composition of the painting and follow my inner creative urges. Before I had this process, I was all over the place. But now I can finally give structure to my creativity. How do I find inspiration and new ideas? Well, by stealing. But stealing like an artist. Now seriously, the truth is that there is nothing new under the sun, and new ideas are generated through a specific way of thinking, and nothing else, really. New ideas and inspiration emerge when we encourage our brains to combine at least two seemingly arbitrary elements in new ways and with different combinations.
Stuff. Notice how it collects all.
This approach was identified, among others, by Albert Rothenberg. He was an American psychiatrist who dedicated his entire professional life to studying creativity in people. The best way of spending your life. He interviewed and studied numerous writers and scientists. He identified specific, consistent forms of cognitive behavior manifested when a person generates an idea. He calls it homospatial thinking. According to Rothenberg, it involves the conception of two or more distinct entities that occupy the same space, the concept that leads to the articulation of new identities. He illustrates his theory with the survey he conducted, starting with the following poetic metaphor. The road was a rocket of sunlight. He asked the participants where they thought the poet was inspired from, and the majority thought that the metaphor was based on physical observation. One of them speculated that the poet was looking at a road and a ray of light appeared in front of him in a form of a rocket. Another that the poet was driving his car on a sunny day and he felt like being in a rocket. None of these answers were correct, of course. Albert Rothenberg reports that in reality, these two words, road and rocket, seemed attractive to the poet, especially when they were used together. But how could the poet turn them into a metaphor? This enigma set the poet's unconscious in motion, and a period of free associations followed. The poet had taken two distinct entities, road and rocket, and forced them into the same conceptual space, and triggered a creative process in which the brain enters the problem-solving mode.
Riley, we haven't heard from you in a while.
No! She picked us! This is the worst day of our life!
And to solve problems, we need thinking, which requires imagination, which makes that moment of inspiration possible. This is how ideas are generated. The unusual combinations of old and new stimulate original ideas, which in fact are ideas with origins. What's most exciting is that we all can make these types of combinations, which are shaped by our personality. No one can make the exact same combinations as we do in an identical way. What we conceive is ours, and it is unique. So, I planned in stopping this video here, but now I'm thinking about another topic we didn't cover, but which may be of help to some of you. Without this how question, this video would be incomplete. I now realize that, and we're gonna cover it. So the question is, how to deal with failure. I'm sure everyone at some point experienced failure, so this will be relevant for everyone. And if you have questions like, why this question, Gabi, and why now? What are you hiding? Well, I must confess, right now I kind of experiencing failure, and that emotion triggered that idea of filming this extra chapter for this video. And let me explain. So I just watched the first draft of this video you are watching right now, and to put it simply, I didn't like it. Specifically, I don't like the way I speak, and my camera presence is no bueno at all. I know that, I see that, and that's kind of discouraging. Now I can tell that this feeling is triggered by some unrealistic expectations I set for myself, which puts a lot of pressure on myself. Because realistically speaking, this is my third video, which means this is my third time speaking in front of a camera. And more than that, I'm speaking in English, which is not my native language. And to be absolutely honest with you, my entire life I was avoiding like hell speaking in English in front of other people. I was so afraid, I was terrified, and I absolutely hated the way my voice sounds and of my accent in English. The only person I spoke to is my boyfriend, and also while I was traveling, of course, because I had no choice. And now I'm sitting here and speaking in front of a camera and potentially in a front of many people. And of course I have these feelings of failure and of fear. So in a way, all those expectations and negative emotions I'm experiencing when I don't like something, they're very subjective because everything depends on the perspective you are looking. So, regards to this video, I won't delete it and I won't film it again because I want to learn to be okay with failing and I want to learn to be okay with other people watching me fail. Because that also means that these people will eventually see me succeeding. They will watch me growing and improving over time. And maybe my journey will be inspiring for some people. And some will find the courage to do the same and be more vulnerable and more authentic to other people. That would be beyond my expectations, really. And now I want to share with you a few ideas I found in a very good book. Actually, this book was one of my favorite art books since 2015, and this book is this one, Gândește ca un artist. This copy is in Romanian. In English, it would be Think Like an Artist. The author is Will Gompert. And the first idea I want to share with you and I want you to remember is that to fail doesn't mean to make a mistake. Although a mistake can lead to what may at first appear to be a failure. And the best example to explain this statement is Thomas Edison's reaction when he failed 10,000 times in inventing the electric light bulb. So I'm repeating myself. It took him 10,000 experiments to finally obtain a commercially viable product. Can you imagine 10,000 experiments or tries to finally succeed at what he was doing? And I like what he said at the end. I'll read it to you, okay? I'll look that way. He said, I didn't make a mistake 10,000 times. I didn't make a mistake even once. I managed to prove that the 10,000 methods don't work. That's brilliant. And I want you to remember that, my friend. This example teaches us that every step, every movement trains the next one. And that the mindset is crucial in order to not be deflated when you go through feelings of failure. Another inspiring example I found in this book is about three artists, Manet, Monet and Cézanne. For years, their works were rejected by the almighty, all-powerful Paris Art Salon. However, just a few years later, they were appreciated as visionary pioneers, whose works would be considered the most important works of art produced in the modern era. Therefore, looking back, who was wrong, the artists or the salon? And hear me out. The truth is that, okay, sometimes it is possible that the business you are working on, the cake you are baking, or the book you are writing has absolutely no chance. But you have a chance. And that failure is a part of the reason why. Because when it comes to creativity, failure is inevitable and is impossible to anticipate. It is part of very fabric of creation. All artists seek perfection, and that's okay, why wouldn't they? But at the same time, I know it very well that this is impossible to achieve. Therefore, we all must accept that everything we create is, to some extent, a failure.